Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Down to Earth with Day King. And tonight we have a special guest with us. I'm definitely happy to have him here. He started out his career as a professional skateboarder, where he had a lot of experiences in the sports industry with skateboarding. And he moved into being a pastor of a church, a very successful church. And now is actually starring in a hit reality TV show called Preachers of LA. So welcome with me to the show, Pastor Jay Haizlip.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good, man.
All
doing
right.
Well?
All right.
It's great to be with you.
Yeah, appreciate you having you down here.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to let you know, one of the things and the reasons why I brought this candy out here, and everybody can see it, this is Hawaiian host candy. This is probably the most popular candy on the island of Hawaii. This was actually given to me by my family member, which is a pastor on the island of Hawaii. So from one pastor's family to another,
hey, man.
we're going to have you get a macadamia chocolate nut there.
Chocolate, macadamia nut, man, that's you like hit me with a double whammy temptation right there. I just cannot resist.
All right.
So
well, I think I'll have you one
too. Who gave this to you?
This is my cousin.
Your cousin?
My cousin.
Tell your cousin I said thank you.
We will. Definitely. Let's both have one. Okay.
That's good, man.
That is good.
That's right. Nobody does it like the Hawaiians.
Not macadamia and chocolate covered nuts.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, those are good. Now, getting down to business, you're from Alabama.
Right. I'm just chewing on this thing right now. But I am originally born in Alabama.
Okay. Originally born in Alabama. What part of Alabama?
Northeast. Right outside Birmingham area.
Okay, northeast Alabama.
Northeast Alabama.
How close?
To the Appalachian Mountains.
How close is that to Mobile?
It's a long way. Mobile's at the other end of the state.
Okay.
So probably 4.5 miles, something like that.
4.5 hours?
I mean, excuse me, 4.5 hours.
Okay. If it was 4.5 miles, that'd be very close.
That's like real close.
All right, so 4.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I mean, I don't know if anybody's really even delved into that part of your background. I know you've shared a lot with the public, being with your pastoral position. But I thought we could talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
How was growing up in Alabama?
Man, I love the fact that I was from Alabama. I believe God's plan's perfect for everybody, and just
Absolutely.
Growing up as a kid, being born there. And I lived several different places in the South, but, Alabama's always been home plate.
Right.
When I was a little kid, I mean, there were little lakes and stuff on the mountain, and me and my friends would go to those lakes. We'd make homemade fishing poles, out of sticks.
Right.
We'd get, line and, just whatever kind of string we could get.
Yeah.
Hooks and
the country
stuff.
fishing pole.
Yeah, man.
Now that's a real country fishing pole. They've had those cartoons with the guy with the stick and that's how you did it.
Do it. And we'd go out and fish and stuff and swim and it was cool. I enjoyed growing up like that. I mean, things have changed a whole lot in our world. Even there, it's changed a lot. But still, just the nature and that region of Alabama is the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Really?
So it's real hilly, a lot of mountains and stuff, which I like. I enjoyed it.
Now I remember seeing one of the episodes on your guys' reality show, Preachers of LA, where you guys went back to Alabama.
Yeah.
To meet up with your mother.
Yes.
Now I did see a lake that your wife was on with a couple of her friends.
Yeah, that's a
river. Was that one of the lakes that you're talking about, or was that a river? Or?
Well, that's a river that runs right through the middle of the town.
Okay. Well,
so, yeah.
I saw that river. That's a pretty big river.
Oh, yeah, man. I've gone swimming in that river so many times, even as a little kid. Because the very first skate park that I was ever sponsored by when I was a little kid was right there.
Okay.
It was real close to where she actually was in that scene.
Okay.
And so we'd skate and we'd get hot in the middle of summer.
Right.
We'd walk over to the river and go swimming.
Right.
Cool off, go back, skate some more.
Sure. And that river water is good to swim in.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice and cool.
Totally.
So I guess that was maybe one of the reasons why did the producers of the show ask to go there, or did they ask you guys where some good places to go to shoot, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just a city. I mean, we were right there, and they saw the beauty of everything. So, we went back to see my mom and do the things that we did while we were there. But yeah, when they just saw the beauty of the town, man, they're like, we've got to include all this in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Alabama is definitely beautiful. I've had my own personal experience with Alabama. I lived there for 2.5 years.
Oh, really? What part?
I lived in Mobile.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Right there, Mobile. I lived in just outside of Mobile in Saraland, Alabama.
I know right where that is.
I lived in Saraland for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, right around Pritchard and Satsuma.
Man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I had my experiences. When I was younger, I used to
So
jump.
you went from LA to LA?
Yeah, right.
From Lower Alabama to LA?
There it is. Yeah, my father sent me out there with my mother for a while. That's a long story though, but another show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I have my own personal experiences with Alabama, so I know how it is to swim in those rivers and jump off the trestles into the water.
Yeah, man.
And all those good country things.
Yeah, there was like waterfalls and stuff. We'd go swimming
Right.
underneath them and jump off the top and all that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right. Well, Alabama's good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a
that's
blast.
good country life living. Okay, so how old were you when you actually left Alabama
Well, once
to
again,
pursue your skateboarding?
well, I started skating when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
I got a skateboard for Christmas. My mom gave it to me, and that obviously changed the direction of my life because I just adapted to it. And man, that's all I dreamed about, thought about. That's all I did. I always had my skateboard with me and started building ramps and driveways and skating ditches and on the sidewalk. And then we left Alabama when I was turning the beginning of my teenage years. Moved here to California.
Okay.
And that was, and I'd already started getting sponsored before I moved here.
Okay.
And then when I came here, I just within a very short period of time ended up. Tony Alva became one of my best friends, and ended up.
Tony Alva, that's a professional
The
skateboarder.
skateboarder, yeah. And when I was 16, my mom just had enough. She kicked me out of the house, and so.
Was that what was it? What was the reason for it? Were you just acting up?
Yeah, I mean.
Not listening. Behavioral
Yeah, I mean,
problems.
I was just partying. I mean, that was all I did. All I thought about was, I'll give you an example. I was a long-term strategist. I thought, okay, what am I going to do tonight?
Okay.
That was about the length of my long-term strategy.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's like I'd wake up. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to go surfing. I'm going to take a couple of hits. Off a joint.
Okay.
And once I get through surfing, I'm going to come back and make something to eat, smoke some more weed, and go skateboarding in the afternoon. And where am I going to go party that night? That was kind of.
And that's how you were in Alabama right before your mother said.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I got exposed to drugs and alcohol at a very young age. And
Okay.
So by the time I was 10, 11, 12 years old, man, I always had a bag of dope on me.
Wow.
I mean, that was normal. I mean, it's shocking, sounds shocking.
It is shocking. I mean, that is a young age.
Yeah.
I've got a son that's 11 years old. I couldn't even imagine him.
I know it's hard for
being that. It's so crazy.
a lot of people to imagine that.
Yeah.
And it should be shocking.
Right.
But
right.
here's even the greater shocker to me is that the average age for first-time drug use, which is smoking weed, is 12 years old.
Okay.
So unfortunately it's not that uncommon.
Right.
It's way too common, and it needs to change.
Right.
But
right.
so by the time I was 16 years old, man, I didn't listen to my mom. I was rebellious. I was being sponsored, hanging out with the most famous guys in the skateboard world, and I was living my life the way I wanted to live it. And
was there a big skateboard scene in Alabama around that time?
well, there was a skateboard scene. We built there was a guy there who built this killer skate park.
Okay.
And guys from all over America would come there. Like when the pros would do tours and stuff, they'd come through there.
Okay.
People from Atlanta would drive there. All over the Southeast would go to the skate park.
Okay.
And skated because it was such a killer skate park. More people came from other places to skate it than did from right there in the town.
Gotcha.
But
so big tour spot for people
skaters
moving around the country.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then, I was one of the probably few that I was a hardcore true skater in the town.
Gotcha.
There were other people who did skate, but it was more just kind of recreational to them. It was a way of life for me.
So were you well known by the town, the community, for being a skater?
Yeah, among young people, yeah. I mean, I went to school. I had on skater pants. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I was full on, you know, because I looked at the magazines and all the guys in the magazines, I said, I want to do what they're doing. I want to look like they look. So, man, I got everything they had. I wore their shoes. I wore their pants.
Sure,
I had their posters. So I'm going to skateboard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to school looking like this.
Gotcha.
And, you know, those guys look like you're from Alabama.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're like, oh, he's into skating.
All right.
But they all dug it. Everybody was cool to me.
Okay. All right. Well, after your life as a skateboarder and moving into being a professional skateboarder, obviously you met a lot of people moving through that. And then there came a point where you switched from that. You got saved. You were saved by the Lord.
Well, what happened was, you know, I ended up moving to Hollywood. And I lived with Tony Alva for a while, you know, and then a few years later, ended up moving to Hollywood. Okay. And still kind of on that same pathway, but drugs got a stronger hold on me.
Sure. Well, I mean, Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, you know, cocaine. I was just doing that, doing that whole lifestyle. Yeah. And I eventually began to lose everything that meant anything to me. And so I left, went back to Alabama, thinking if I just do a geographical change, I could get a hold of my life, get back on track, and
get away from LA.
Get away from LA, the people I'm running with.
Right.
And of course, that didn't work because by this point, you know, I'm addicted, you know, and so it's in me.
Yeah, your body.
So regardless of where I moved to, it's still, you know, I was still struggling with that addiction. And that's why I couldn't stay clean. But it was in Alabama where I came to the Lord, where God radically touched me and changed me. Right. And then out of that is ultimately what led to me being called into ministry.
Gotcha. Now let's talk about that. I mean, I think a lot of times you've probably talked about the depthness. You get real deep with being a minister in your ministry. Let's kind of scrape over the surface a little bit. How do you like being a minister?
You know,
let's talk about that.
You know, I love it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else in this world. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Okay. Because number one, it's calling. Yeah. You know, it isn't just a career. It's not just an occupation that I chose to do. God called me. Sure. And I love it. Okay. And the fact, even though I love it, doesn't mean it's easy. Sure. You know, because doing what I do, it's challenging. It's tough. You know, because anytime you do something like I do, it's extremely controversial. Right. You know. Right. I don't use the word religion, but a lot of people use the word religion. But anytime you're a leader in the religious organization, along with that's going to come haters and attacks and strongly opinionated people. And right. So you get that dynamic of it. That's not fun. I ignore that part. Right. I focus on the good things. But you know, the thing about a pastor is that they rejoice with you and they mourn with you. Right. For example, man. Well, that's true. And hopefully I won't start crying. That's 100%. That's 100%. You know, there's a dude, an awesome guy, man. That older gentleman, retired school teacher. He kind of flies underneath the radar. Very quiet guy. Ever since we started at our church, every Tuesday we have noontime prayer. Okay. Ever since we started it, from day one, this dude has come. He prays for an hour every single Tuesday. He has for several years now. Wow. And older guy. Okay. But just 2 days ago, he passed away. Oh, you know, so being a pastor, once again, you get to rejoice with people's successes and victories, but then also you mourn. Sure. You know, with those things. And so I thought, you know, here's this guy, man, that has come to our church, and he's flies underneath the radar. He's the easiest guy in the world to be a pastor to. Sure. And comes every Tuesday and prays 4-hour church. And,
did he also come on Sundays, or was
he was on Sundays as well.
And Tuesdays. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I mean, that's, you know, I love doing what I do. Yeah. But it does have its
well, everything in life has its ups and downs.
But you know,
Everything in
even,
life has its ups and
even
downs.
in these, exactly.
Yeah.
But even in the heartbreaking situations like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's still reason for me to celebrate. Because I know that man, without a shadow of a doubt, is
Right.
running the streets
Right,
of glory
right,
now.
right.
And if I could go up and
Yeah.
say, "Hey Don, you want to go back?" He would say, "No way, man.
Jay, are you crazy?
I'm praying for you up here."
I got that. I get
Not
that.
one person in heaven regrets being there.
No, absolutely not. And I know that I won't once I'm there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, so being a pastor, you like it. I mean, it has its perks, it has its ups, it has its downs. You're a normal person just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You've taken on a strong role in life, and you've decided that this was going to be your passion,
Yeah.
and you've answered the calling of the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do.
No, it
That's
isn't.
I mean, if anything, it's a scary thing to do.
It is.
I mean, I imagine for my own self, you know, if I were to be called to the ministry by the Lord, I mean, I don't know how I'd respond to that. I think it would be a scary thing to even
Yeah.
think about, you know, like, because a lot of
Well,
people
there's
depend on
They
you.
depend on you. There's just a, you know, at this stage in the game, because
Mm-hmm.
you know, our church has grown now to where, you know, thousands of people call our church their home.
Right.
We've got
right.
2 campuses.
Well, it's my church.
Yeah.
It's my home church, so.
And I'm stoked you're part of it, man. You know, and at this stage in the game, for
Mm-hmm.
one, my age and the level of influence our church is,
Mhm.
you know, if I make a dumb mistake,
Mhm.
I mean, the
Right.
fallout from that
Sure, absolutely.
is going to be huge.
Well, the pressure it has to be immense.
Yeah.
The pressure has to be immense on an all-time basis, and I can only think that with that type of pressure for any pastor, and this is for any pastor,
Yeah.
you know, that pressure that you take on can only be probably supported by the Lord.
Yeah.
Because without the Lord behind you, it'd be too much.
Without His grace, it'd be impossible.
Right.
I would never attempt to do this in my own strength, even though I put everything I got into it.
Right.
It's God. If God calls you, He will give you the grace to do it.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
and I never want to get so good at what I do that I lose my dependency upon Him.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I understand,
Because
yeah.
you know, repetition, you can learn. Okay,
Just
1
kinda
plus
get in the
1
gr-
equals 2.
Right.
You know, okay,
Right.
I can figure this equation out without God. You know, I've been doing it long enough.
Right.
I never want to get to that place
Yeah, I get
where, I got this.
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
care how many times I do it, God, I still need you.
And I think that, you know, maybe that's that little equation that you just illustrated for us right there. It's probably possibly been the downfall of certain pastors that have been you know, pastors in the past.
Yeah, and
They
you
just
know,
get too adjusted to it,
Yeah,
and think
well-
that that's just, you know, I can do this on my own, like you just said.
There's
know.
definitely that temptation. And think about this, but the more successful any Christian leader is,
Mhm.
the greater target they become for the enemy.
Sure,
You know, like back in the military, the older military
especially for the
days.
media.
Yeah, the media, the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying necessarily all media is enemy, but you know, but
Right,
you
right.
know,
No,
spiritual
yeah.
warfare is
Yeah.
real.
Right.
And I mean, just think about this. Back in the older military days, where they did a lot of the combat more on the grounds and stuff, they always were trained. Look for the brass.
Right. Okay.
You know, they won't take out the leaders.
Okay.
Because you can take out the
Okay.
leaders, you can conquer the truth.
And they were wearing the brass to be recognized as leaders. That were
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
So
sure.
it's the same way in the spiritual realm. The enemy's like, take out the leader.
Okay.
If we can take out the leader, we can scatter the sheep. We can get the sheep. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? Oddly enough, I mean, there's been people in the past that have been very well-known evangelists that have been under fire, and sometimes even guilty of whatever they
Yeah.
were under fire of.
Yeah.
But you know, this to me, and this is just me, my opinion. We're men. We're human, and human beings. We're flawed.
Right.
We're not without sin.
Right.
And a lot of people's opinion may be, well, you know, look at that pastor. He was all this and that. He was so well known, and look at him. He's went and done this bad thing, and now look at him, right?
Yeah.
Well, did we not forget that he's a man too?
I think
know?
so. I do believe that there are times that people put unrealistic expectations on leaders in the Christian world, and we expect perfection out of them. We expect them to be just as perfect as Jesus himself is.
Right.
Sometimes I believe
You're
that.
absolutely right.
And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be restoration when there's been certain mistakes, but rather than being quick to stone somebody, I'd rather be quick to rush in and love somebody.
And help somebody.
And say, man, I love you.
Right.
I'm not here to condemn you. Let me help you get back up on your feet. Matter of fact, I'll shoulder the burden with you. I'll stand between you and the enemy.
Sure.
While you get back up on your feet. I'd rather be known as that guy.
Right.
Than the guy that I told you so.
Yeah.
And throw some rocks, condemn them.
Right.
Put them down.
You know, there's one thing, and let me just ask you about this. It just seems to me like I listen to different preachers here and there on television, and it seems like I do see certain preachers preaching about how these other preachers in the world are out here preaching this and they're preaching that, and that they don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And to me, it kind of sends a message of inconsistency in the world, in God's kingdom.
Yeah.
That there's an inconsistency there where one pastor believes that maybe these pastors in another area are not preaching right, or preaching the right word, or preaching by the way that they should be. And I feel like it sends a message of inconsistency. I'm not judging anything, but I often wondered where all that came from.
Well, two things. Number one, no one preacher or one organization has cornered the market on absolute perfect doctrine.
Right.
The only person who's got perfect doctrine is Jesus himself.
Okay.
So to say I own the corner of I got everything 100% down right. That would in itself would be reason enough to get away.
Okay.
But I don't have to put somebody else down to try to elevate my truth.
Right.
If I feel I have real truth, all I got to do is uplift the truth.
Right.
I don't have to put somebody else down to try to make my truth look better.
Right.
Because truth will stand on its own.
Sure.
Sure.
I believe that to be true.
And I think to me, that's saddening to the Lord when preachers are preaching against each other, putting each other down. It's Jesus is the head of the church.
Right.
If there's somebody out there that's doing something that's exactly not right or something like that, Jesus is big enough to take care of his church.
Right.
He doesn't need me to go over here and school this guy. And so
yeah, well,
that's my view on that.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? Recently, you were actually part of the huge event down at the Staples Center.
Yeah.
I believe it was last month with Joel Osteen.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
And I was, fortunate enough to have been able to be there that night. It was definitely a spectacular night. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of the Holy Spirit in the air.
Yeah.
And a lot of good things going on. And I just have to say that I definitely enjoyed when you were up on stage with the rest of the pastors, and you guys put a blessing over, all of LA and Orange County, and I felt that was really great. It was a really good event to witness that night. How did you like that event that night?
Well, I love Joel, and I appreciate who he is and what he represents and what he's about. He knows his mission. He knows his lane. He knows his assignment. And he sticks to it. He doesn't try to get off into something that he's not necessarily called to do. He feels like he knows his part in the body. Some are the hands, some are the feet. He knows who he is. He does it well. And I think the fruit and the results of that night speak for that.
Right.
When the night was all said and done and he asked people to stand and give their life to the Lord, I mean, it was probably 3/4 of the stadium. And it was a sold out stadium, absolutely packed capacity. And probably 3/4 of that stadium stood to give their life to Jesus.
Right. And that's a huge amount of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that place was very well packed. And I just, again, where I was at and everybody that was around me just was touched by the entire service. And I feel with Joel, he's an inspirational type pastor. He inspires people to press forward with the Lord with them.
Well, the Bible says some have the gift of encouragement.
Okay.
And that's a gift God's given certain people in the body of Christ.
Yeah.
and that's what he feels he has. And I believe that. I'd much rather.
And you know what? I believe that we need that at this time.
Yeah.
We need that because there's a lot of people, maybe not just down on themselves. The economy has taken a hit lately within the last decade. There's been a lot of economical distress.
Yeah.
And during that time, I think with Joel and other people that are inspired to inspire people.
They need hope. They need encouragement.
And he's coming at the right time. I mean, the Lord sent him at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. God knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's got his map already laid out.
Yeah, he does.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, now let's get to this. Let's get to this. You're now one of the stars of the Preachers of LA reality show.
Yeah.
And what season are you guys in right now?
We're about to kick up season 3.
Season 3.
Yeah.
High five on that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's great. So how is it being a part of Preachers of LA?
Well, I mean, it's been super challenging, just coming from the lane that I've been operating in for so long. Mm-hmm. I really empower other guys, to get out here and engage the different streams in culture, and I've usually done that from the position of a pastor, but now God's got me with, a foot still in the church stream, but now I got a foot in the media stream, which is not an unfamiliar stream to me because of my history in skateboarding and stuff like that.
Sure, exactly.
But now I'm more in an upfront role on this major platform. And, millions of people watch it, have watched it.
Right.
And so, I mean, it is challenging, because it's reality TV.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, I've kept up on the show myself. Of course, I would be. You'd be my pastor. But I have to say that I've seen you in some pretty sticky situations.
Oh, totally.
It hasn't been a complete chocolate walk.
Yeah. No.
But it seems as though you've been able to overcome the issues by just, like you said, sticking to your truth.
I love all the guys that are on there. I wish some of the things that have happened to some of those people that they didn't go through that.
Right.
But once again, it goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. Men are fallible. Men are human.
Right.
And they have weaknesses.
Right.
And when you think about guys like David, because David in the Bible seems to be the go-to guy. Anytime somebody.
David Goliath?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because David, King David, because he had a failure.
Right.
He committed adultery, he had a guy murdered.
Right.
But God still called him a guy after his own heart.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody falls, David, the story of David is like the go-to story.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it does give people hope. Like if God didn't give up on David after adultery and murder, hey, I think there's hope for all of us.
Right. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And so, but God said concerning David, he's a man after my own heart. Because even in his failures, when he was confronted by Nathan the prophet, he still humbled himself, repented. I'm sorry. It's me. I'm guilty. He owned it.
Right.
And he repented, and God raised him back up out of his mess.
Right.
There were consequences to his mistakes.
Right.
But God did not discard him and throw him away because of his mistakes.
And he doesn't do that to anybody.
He doesn't do it to anybody.
Yeah.
And so, you see that in our show, that, hey,
Sure.
these are guys that have major ministries in America, LA in America, and they're not always perfect. And I'm not always perfect,
Right. Well, oddly enough, and this is one thing that I've been able to kind of see through the people that have, kind of messaged online and different things that I've seen about the show.
Yeah.
And just people that I know in general. I know a great many black people. I've grown up with black folks and all my life, and have them in my family, and I know they love you.
Yeah.
They love you.
Yeah.
They say, I don't know about the rest of them, but that white preacher, he's all right.
That's awesome.
And it's pretty cool, and I'm happy to always say, hey,
well, even though, come on, let's face it, I am the only white guy on the show.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, there's the awkward white guy.
No, not at all. No.
Because for one, the guys I'm on the show with, they're not racist.
No.
And I'm not racist. You know, number one, we're all Christians before we are whatever ethnicity we are.
Gotcha.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy, you know, guy being a black guy, or a guy being a white guy, or a guy being an Asian, or a guy being Hawaiian,
or Samoan.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, God created all the different tongues and tribes, as the Bible calls it, ethnicities, and to me, I personally, if I had to live my whole life in like this little box with a bunch of white people, I mean, that to me, that would absolutely be boring.
Well, the world that's not reality. That's not reality.
And I don't want it to be my reality.
No, and that's why I mean, growing up here in LA, I mean, it's just been it's been a pleasure, because I've grown up with so many different races.
Yeah.
You know, Mexican, black, white, Vietnamese, you know, Hawaiian, Samoan, and I feel the same way. I'm just, you know, and I always think back to it. You know, the Lord made everybody.
They sure did.
The Lord made everybody. We're like the you know, the nations of the world.
For God so loved the world.
Right.
Didn't say for God so loved a black guy, or for God so loved a white guy.
That's right.
It says for God so loved the world.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I think I'll go ahead and offer you one last chocolate macadamia here.
Come on now.
Last one.
You're peddling dope up on there, man.
Chocolate here. Yeah. Chocolate dope. All right. Well, hey, thanks again for tuning in tonight to watch the sit down here with me and Pastor Jay. It's definitely been a pleasure having him on the show. And make sure that you look out for season 3 of Preachers of LA. He'll definitely be there entertaining everybody. And make sure you tune in for next week for the next guest that I have. And you know that it's going to be